Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday. It's October 2nd, so we'll be starting a new month today. September went by really quick. We're already getting into the late fall here, so the weather hadn't turned here yet, really. I'll be glad when it does because we've had some really hot weather. But you can see today, looking at the daily chart, we're just still working sideways here. We keep trying to probe lower, but we recover back inside this support resistance line each day. So every time we move down here, we're getting into oversold territory and a lot of buying comes in. So I still think we'll probably bounce a little bit here. Even if we're going to go lower, we're going to bounce first or maybe work our way further sideways maybe. Um, I still think we got room to the downside. We do have two measured legs down, but we're not getting any rejection here. This is more acceptance of these prices. So we'll just have to see what it brings. This daily chart moves at a snail's pace. It takes a while before you can really understand exactly what's going on. It doesn't move quite as fast as the 2000 tick, where within a few minutes you can kind of figure out what's happening. Sometimes you have to wait a week or two here to kind of get an idea of what prices are going to do. So anyway, it looks like prices are garnering acceptance at these prices, which might mean we're going lower still. However, a lot of buying's coming in below this 43.20 level. So we'll just have to see if it'll work its way through there or not, or if we're eventually going to bounce and go higher and test the previous support up here and see if it acts as a resistance. So, I mean, that's what prices do. They move between support and resistance, and then they'll either hold and it keeps going till the next level and tests it, or it'll find support long enough and prices will give up and reverse and start testing in the other direction. And so right now we're testing this support level right here, and so far it's holding. So we'll see what happens. We actually have a higher low in place here, so we'll see what happens. Let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart, take a look at it, go through the trades, and we'll wrap this day. And you can see here we had a big move down in the overnight session, and then we were just working sideways. There was a news item here around 9 a.m., so you needed to be flat for that. There was another one at 10, which is the Fed Powell was speaking, but you never know when they're going to say something, so it's really hard to be flat on that. And you can see this sell-off right here came about 10:30, well, let's just see what time it started. Looks like right around 10:30. So maybe they said something right out of the gate that affected the market. I mean, it's hard to say because most breakouts of a range fail, and this just failed, and then it ran down the other side. But it continued to sell off, and we moved a measured move. As you can see, this line right here is a measured move based on the width of this right here. And once we started going lower, you might look for a measured move. We didn't quite get that, but we came close. But we couldn't breach this measured move support level right here. And then if you go back, there may be some support there previously. Yeah, it looks like there probably is some support across here. But that's neither here nor there. This measured move is here, and prices bounced off of it pretty much. So my guess is we couldn't, people were buying on that measured move based on the width of this rather than another full leg down. And we actually end up rallying and taking a good bit of this back and closing near the high of this range today. For the most part, we were sideways, mixed trading today, but it did have a bearish tone until we finally bottomed out. I would say at least until here, but we came back and tested that low again. Only to see it rally higher this time. So let's zoom in here and go through the trades. And 7 o'clock came as we're trending down here. No setups here. And then, of course, we bounce. And we get two legs right back to the key entry point and a nice bearish bar. I like going short there. There's not a break lower here, So that's really a hidden second entry, but notice you get a leg back, correction, leg back. And so it still looks like two legs back, plus there's a hidden second entry in there as well. So you gotta, if you went to a slightly smaller chart, you see a second entry right there. And there's plenty of room to get out. So I like that trade. You might take it just because it looks like two legs back to the trend line in the EMA with a nice bearish bar. But if you also see the hidden second entry, that gives it a little more credibility to take that trade as well. So that's a couple of reasons to take it. I marked it green because it's a little aggressive, but if you see all that, you probably would take that trade. And of course, it runs down here, and we finally get a break. And you would be looking for a retest of the lows here, but I don't see anything that I would want to go short on just yet. There's a second entry here, but it doesn't trigger, and then we're kind of congested here, and there's not really enough room to get out right there. You can see it's so close. Maybe there's exactly 6 ticks there. It ends up not mattering, but I just don't like that trade because of the congestion. Maybe you take that one because you do get the break and move to a new high, and that's the first break of this channel. And you would expect prices to try to go lower here, but it ends up failing, and you get a little spike and channel up. I don't see anything I like to the upside here. That's too congested. That's just a first entry. I just don't see anything I like there. And then, of course, we get the close outside a new high here. Maybe you take that trade. Generally, I'd say wait on a lower high, which is here, and it's right into that support, so you really can't go short there. If you were going to enter here, it would have to be here, and it's a little bit aggressive. But if you don't enter here, then you really have nowhere else to enter here. Too sideways, too congested, too congested, too congested. There is a second entry short here, but there's not room to get out. You see it just keeps going sideways, and that takes us into the news item. So I would sit tight here until about 9:02 or 3, and we get this breakout here. But you can see it doesn't go anywhere. I did mark this double top. This is basically a lower high on the breakout, and you expect this to fail. There's a lot of room back to the EMA, so maybe you take that one. There's another lower high here, but now you don't have much room. It would have worked. It's not a very good signal bar anyway, so you really can't take it. There's a second entry short here, but it's an inside bar. And then finally you get a first entry, second entry, and this actually breaks higher and turns down. I like going short on the engulfing bar, but you could wait till this closes, still bearish, maybe go short there as long as there's room to get out before that low. But now you got a break and new low right at the midline. It bounces, and notice you get a leg up, pull back, first entry, leg up. So you get a second entry short right off the resistance right there with a nice signal bar. I marked it green. It's real close to being red. The problem is there's no real close outside this channel yet, so we could push back up for a new high. But you may take that trade if you've got enough room to get out back to the EMA. It makes 2 legs down, then it comes back again, turns back down. No setup here. Lower high, no setup. It's really moved too far for a lower high. I don't see anything. Again, you get 2 legs down. But we're not back down to the lows yet, so I don't like going long there. And we're just chopping along again in this congested little range. No setups there. It's tempting to go long, but I don't think you can go long there. You do have a break and new low, but here, if you draw this back up, you do get a break here, and you try to go higher multiple times, but it's making lower highs, so I'm leery of going long right there. I mean, it's a possibility. It makes a new low, though, so you really probably want to wait on a higher low, and you just don't get it. And next thing you know, it's racing lower. It's tempting to go long right there, but I think you need a higher low. It's way away from the EMA. It does make a 2-bar matching low. It would be a first entry by the counts. I mean, if you want to be super aggressive, but I'd probably want to wait on a higher low, which you don't get. Notice you're making this channel running up. You get a close outside, new high, and there's a second entry short right off the midline. Maybe you take that one. Again, I made it green. It's not one that's a super great setup, but you got a channel working up. It gets a close outside. It makes a new high. So if it breaks lower, it's a second entry short, and we do have a bit of a downward bias here. So maybe you take that one. It would have worked. You wouldn't have got much more than that out of it. Comes back to the midline again and turns back down. No setup either time here. And then you get another second entry long that makes a higher low way away from the EMA, and this one closes inside the range. I marked this one blue since it made a lower high, and it is a second entry long way away from the EMA. You don't know that you're just trying to get a scalp back to the EMA. You don't know that it's going to take off like that. So it turns out to be a pretty good move. And then, of course, you get two legs back again. But that just sets the trend line right there. It's not confirmed. It's below the EMA. It's a fairly bullish bar, but it's not perfect. I'd want a higher low here, and you just don't get it. You end up going sideways, congested. You get a higher low here, but that would be just a first entry short and nothing you'd really want to go long on. I don't think you'd want to enter on the engulfing bar because of how neutral that is. And then you got a 2-bar matching high if you wait till that closes. But this is a double bottom, and this is a first entry. So you got a second entry here, and this breaks lower and fails and turns up. Now, I like this one. You could enter on the engulfing bar, and if you got enough room to get out before that high, you could even enter on the full bar. So I don't know if there's enough room. I like it on the engulfing bar. Looks like there's just enough room either way. So you probably could take that one either way. Really what I would probably do here, since there's exactly 6 ticks, I might let this break higher and drop a limit order, maybe a tick back in. See if you could get filled that way, and then it gives you a couple of extra ticks to get out with. It doesn't end up mattering. It just takes off, but it doesn't always take off like that. So you want to make sure you got room here. Again, it broke lower first and then went out, so I like entering that on the engulfing bar first, but you're basically entering that as a failure. Continuation. And it breaks out, and then you're just chopping sideways. This one's tempting, but it makes a new high, and we're in an uptrend now. You can clearly see that we're working higher. It does look like we have a close outside. It's not super convincing, so maybe you wait and see what happens. I mean, you could argue for that to maybe be a green one, but I'd want a lower high here. And that comes way down here, and you just can't really enter right there. It's moved a little bit too far, and it just keeps moving lower. It keeps making lower highs, and then it works sideways and turns down again. Again, no entries in there. It's a pretty good move down that you just don't really get a chance to enter. And then you're moving sideways again, and you get a little double top with a fairly decent bar. If you've got room to get out, you can take that trade. There's a close outside here, but it's not super convincing either. So there's a good chance you're going to try to attempt another leg down here. And that's exactly what happens, but you're just playing the range rules here. So you just have to have enough room to get out. I think there's enough room there. Pretty sure there is. There's exactly 6 ticks. So again, if you're not comfortable just using the sell stop there, maybe you let it break lower, drop a limit order, back in this a tick, maybe 2 ticks, and then you got a little extra room to play with. Doesn't end up mattering, it just keeps going. But now you've got a close outside with a good leg down, maybe even 2 legs down, and a higher low here. It actually breaks out, comes back, and comes back. I'd wait for this to close for sure, and then maybe you take that long. Of course, it comes up here, it gets a break, and then turns down. It's just a first entry though. Does make a new high. It's not a great signal bar either, so just wait and see if you get something else. And then you're just working sideways here. You just don't really get any setups to go short here. You get two legs back here. Technically, this is a first entry, second entry, and it is a little ways away from the EMA. Maybe you take that one, but generally you want to wait on a lower high, which comes here. And this actually breaks lower and turns up, so it's an engulfing bar. It does close bearish, and there is still room to get out here. And you would expect prices to try to retest this low. You want to have enough room before you get to this support level, though, because you see it bounces there once. So maybe you take that short. It does make another leg down here. I didn't draw the trend channel, but there you should probably. Usually I don't draw these on the retest, and this is the retest of the low from this yellow channel. So that's why I usually don't draw these, but you could draw it and see you still get a break and a new low. And then you get a triple test across here, making a perfect triple bottom. And with a nice signal bar, I like going long there because you've made this measured move and it's tested it 3 times and you're still a little ways away from the EMA. You should at least get a scalp out of this, but this thing takes off and you probably get a nice run out of it until you get a break. Too congested here. I don't see anything. You could treat that like a failed breakout. Closes back inside. But if the second entry triggered off this bar, actually it did not, I'm sorry, because you get a first entry, second entry, so it's just a failed breakout, and this does make a new swing low, so that's just a first entry. So I didn't mark it previously. I don't really like it. We do have a close outside and 2 swings to a new high, but there's a good chance we're trying to work back to at least test this and maybe even go back to the highs of the original range, which are up here. So I'm hesitant to take that trade. And then of course we do end up going higher. You get a close outside, a couple of legs up, and then you make this high right here. You could say that's a triple test. It's just you'd have to trade it like a trading range, but you don't have a lot of room here. It's way away from the EMA, and so the odds are we're probably headed back there. So maybe you take that. I marked it green. And of course it just runs down. You don't really get anything else there that you can trade. Nothing here either. You get a little congested channel up with a close outside and a new high, but you just can't go short there. It drops down, gives you a higher low that actually breaks lower and turns up. Maybe you enter right there. I don't think I would wait till it closes and enter here, but I think you can enter on that engulfing bar if you see that, because it's right at the measured move again. You can see there. There's a good chance it's going back to at least the EMA. It actually goes much higher. You get what looks like a close outside. It's not real convincing, but then you get an overshoot, and so it tries to sell off and then just works sideways, and finally it comes down here. What does it do? It just tests this lower area again, makes another higher low that breaks lower and turns up. Again, I like going long on the engulfing bar there. I don't know if I would wait till here. You could go long there, but you're taking a chance going long into the EMA. But we've been going sideways here for a while. So, and then once you're going sideways, you kind of don't worry about. You really can't worry about the EMA anymore. It's usually prices are going to flip back and forth above and below it. So maybe you go long there. Better to go long on the engulfing portion of it. Then of course you get a first entry short and a second entry short that fails, and it's also a first entry long, second entry long. So maybe you go long right there. I marked it green. You could treat that like a failure and a second entry long. The second entry long wouldn't qualify by itself, but the failure, you don't care about the signal bar, so you could use that for an excuse to enter that one. And then it runs up, comes back, and you're just chopping around into this 230 here. So nothing else I see worth taking. So kind of interesting. Most of your trades were longs down here, and it is kind of it does look pretty bearish here, but if you recognize what's going on, um, maybe you try to pick up some buys, especially on the measured move based off the width of the range when we kept bouncing across down here. That's pretty much how you have to trade a range. You hope you get a bunch of setups off the lows and a bunch of setups off the highs, which would have been here, or if it was working back up here across here. And you just don't get many setups off the highs. So you're really trying to trade the range or the trends on the shorts, and you just don't get a lot of setups on them. So um, I told this to another trader today. Um, if you make a mistake, you want to make a mistake with a bias. So really until about right here, the bias was down, and then it starts sideways kind of from there. Actually, all of this was sideways. But we had a nice trend going here, so you really wanted to be trend trading. But then once we started going back and forth again, you know your biases and the fact that you made a measured move based on the width of the range, you know your bias is kind of is mostly mixed and sideways again, and so you can start trading it both ways again. You want to trade buy the lows of the range and sell the highs, and there's not a lot of sales here because you don't get any test off of that really. So just keep that in mind. But I talked about that with another trader today. He took a short and he took it right into support almost, and so I told him it wasn't really a good high probability trade. But the good thing was he was entering with the bias, so he didn't really have to worry about a counter trend trade getting trapped. And you know, if you make a mistake on a counter trend trade, you're going to get burned. And that's why you probably shouldn't take many of them. But if you make a mistake and you enter with the trend and you make a minor mistake, a lot of times you'll still survive those trades because the trend will help you. The trend will help you out and give you some assistance. So if you're going to error, make sure it's with the trend and not a counter trend, because if you make an error counter trend, they're going to get you 99.9% of the time. But if you can still, if you're trading with the trend, you can oftentimes make little minor errors, be a little too early, a little too late, and still survive. So that's the point I'm trying to make, is to try not to counter trend and try to always enter with the prevailing trend, if there is one. So anyway, that's how I saw it today. Not much else we can say about it. We're starting a new month of October. I hope you had a good September. If not, keep working on it. Hopefully we'll have a better October. If you're struggling, make sure you're on the simulator. Don't be a donator. Don't be a donor. Don't donate your money to the skilled traders because they need you. But there's plenty of people out there that are going to be that don't listen or don't know the right process, and they're going to be let them be the donors. Don't let it be your money. Save your money for your trading account when you prove you can do this on a simulator. But you need that experience trading live data, so you need a good simulator. But don't trade live. Not until you've proven you're consistently profitable for a long period of time. And so do that on the simulator. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.